Boom. Mic is no longer muted. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Let's see. We could do this. We can make the screen bigger. See everybody. Nice. All right, let's go. I gotta see the people who are here. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Let me check the comments real quick. Say hello to everybody. Good morning, Enid. Hello, Chris Mendoza. Heather, good morning. Mary Beth, good morning. Connie, hello. Jeanette, good, really early morning. Hope you're all doing well. All right, I'm going to close this here. Thank you, Dave. Okay. Let's see this first. How's everyone doing today? Okay. All right, where's my opener? Hello.
Here.
All right. Whoa, it scared me.
Hello, and welcome to MoB Kaffeeklatsch, episode 150, and enjoy the show.
Thank you. Thank you for opening for us. Very nice of you. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. All right, let's get started. Make sure the fan stays on. I'll just do that. Yeah, that was a surprising pop-up for sure. Let's see. Hold on, let me just get the comments back in. All right, excellent. Okay. Hope everyone's doing okay. The weather has been. Let me just change this just a little bit. I want to make sure I can see the text. Is this coming out here? Show us the text. Yeah, excellent. Scooch over just a bit. Okay. Dolly, say hello.
Hi, everyone.
Right. Good morning. Wow, it's been a bit of a whirlwind because I've been doing Deadeye. So yeah, I don't know if I could make have had glowing red eyes. That would be like batteries or something. Glowing LED eyes. Hello, Enid. Yeah, it's been crazy. Coffee, yes, coffee is coffee. For sure. So Deadeye, we really can't discuss. Anthony, good morning. We really can't discuss Deadeye because it's mid-shred. I guess we could kind of skirt around it, talk about things that might be related to Deadeye, but I definitely do not want to spoil the story for anyone. So you definitely can have, if those of you that are in the art can definitely present questions and I'll try to answer them, or present things that might need to get kind of touched upon, and I'll try to refer to them, or maybe we can do a little behind the scenes, just kind of to explain some of the things that are in Deadeye, and maybe kind of shed some light on stuff, you know. Yeah, we all need it. We all need those. But no spoilers, really. No, let's try to keep the the space, not just this one, but the MoB, spoiler free. I guess you could say whatever you want to say in the art because it's the art in the shredders. But in the MoB act, in the actual MoB case files, it's not a discuss the story. Except to go like, whoa, or oh my god, because I was doing that to Chris and Joe a lot of that, but not trying not to spoil it. I try not to spoil it. That's the key. We want to keep it spoiler free. At this point, the next story, which is Nemesis, is already outlined, but I have to kind of revamp the entire production schedule and see because Frozen Fire still needs to get done, and then jumping into Nemesis right away. So it's going to be kind of there's a lot of upheaval and revamping and redoing and rescheduling and juggling and things like that. How are you all doing? Those of you the art, and Chris pointed out, the art seems a little subdued. Are you guys okay over there? Are you guys in shock? Those of you that are in the art, what's going on? Because I'm only seeing like 167 notes, and it's like It's strange, but I also understand it because of the way the story was written. Yeah, we can't, and you can't reveal that. No, you can't reveal that. They are, yeah, they are. It's in a coma. It's all a dream, and they're really Monty and Strong are really bangers and mash. Why would you reveal that? That spoiler. Yeesh. Anthony, you signed an NDA. What's going on? You have a couple on Deadeye, but you can wait. You have a couple of questions, yeah. I mean, you can ask them. If I can answer them, I will. If I can't answer them, I'll tell you I can't answer them. It would spoil stuff. But if you could ask them, and don't do an Anthony who just revealed like the whole, he just undid the entire series. Anthony, really, God, wow, man, wow. So how are you all doing? How's everything going? How are you guys dealing with the heat? There's some storms. I've kind of been out of the loop of a lot of things because I've been in the midst of Deadeye. So I know there's storms all over the country, things happening. The heat has been ridiculous in terms of just scorching cities. It's been really bad in some places. So I hope you're all keeping cool and hydrated. That's kind of important. Just do this here. Okay, so we got people here. Let me just kind of do the our shout outs. All right, so shout outs everyone on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, please hit the like, hit the subscribe, but especially hit that like because it helps the channel get discovered even more. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It helps. But more importantly is just hit that like button. The like, I guess it's a check mark or like thumbs up kind of thing, because it helps the channel. And don't forget to support us there at Bitten Peaches. And the CWWs were on pause only because I was in the middle of Deadeye, so I haven't done any. But I'm thinking of changing the format yet again and making it maybe a longer format, but less frequent, like maybe a weekly thing that happens once a week, but longer. It's gonna end up being the same amount of time, but just once a week instead of like every other day. So I'm gonna try and see if that format works. It's okay, Jenna. Just do what you can. I know it's crazy sometimes. We get these FB UI things happening all the time. All right, everyone on Instagram. I haven't posted much on Instagram. Only again in the middle of Deadeye, but I will be. I have a lot of things set up. Once Deadeye goes live, I want to kind of put everything. Hello, Audrey. Welcome. Welcome to the Kaffeeklatsch. So yes, on Instagram I have a few things I want to post, but I want to wait until Deadeye goes live, and then I want to kind of put things up there. Zazzle, we haven't had any recent additions to the swag, but we have so much swag that you really should do yourself a favor and go there and pick up some swag for yourself because it's amazing the amount of swag we have there, and the swag that's there is amazing too. Patreon, we have new patrons, so here we go. A huge thanks to Robin J. Henderson and Rosario Chi Honorato. I hope I'm saying that pronouncing that last name correct. The two, C.I. and the Honorato, correct. Thank you for supporting us. And a huge thank you to all our patrons because you guys are amazing. Thank you for supporting us on Patreon. You're fantastic. And thank you for going above and beyond. It really does help out and it helps us just keep making more stories. It's amazing. Let's promo the authors, Chris. You have the link. Let's just do that real quick. Let's do that now. Oh man. Well, I'm hoping that surgery goes really well, Jeanette. Well, ask the question anyway, and then if it's answered in the book, I'll let you know it's answered in the book. And if it's not, I'll say, well, it's not. Yes, FB is changing stuff, and they're getting rid of some files away, like videos. How they're changing stuff to like be reels. It's a really weird kind of change. So just be prepared. We're gonna get a lot of track. Paige, welcome. Your red shirt. You had your red shirt moment, Paige. How did you like it? All right. So wait, before we get into Pages, because we're not gonna spoil Paige, but we know that you had a moment in the book. Here we go. Let's do this. Show this. Hopefully it shows up quick. because StreamYard can be funky sometimes. All right. John JL, as I call him, has another PPD book, Cloaked, Roswell PPD, book 1. So he started another precinct. It's called Cloaked. It's, I don't know, is it out yet? I think it's going to be out. Oh, Paige. Oof. It's, I don't think it's out yet. This is pre-order. I believe this is a pre-order. So go pre-order because it does help his sales later on when the book does go live. It's called Cloak. It's a Roswell PPD. You know, John, you know the PPD, you know what kind of humor it is, so you know what you're getting going in. So go, let's support him because we support our indie authors. Go do that and pick up his book and help this book do really well. So I'm gonna take this off. You guys know where to find it. It'll be in the MoB. Here we go. See if it comes out quickly. Yeah, not bad. Okay, so the service is acting better today. Okay, Paige. When you get to it, you just let me know when you get to it. Okay. Everyone who has gotten to it has been like, whoa. Like Jeanette saying, suddenly Paige was there and she was everywhere. Like it was yeah. Oh, Cloak drops September 1st. Good. So we got about a few weeks before it comes out. So put that in your calendar, make a note to September 1st, pick it up, but pre-order it now. Okay. So the sales can be generated on day 1. Really, that must be a first, Chris. I rarely see YouTube ahead of Facebook. It's usually the other way around. It's surprising. But it wouldn't, you know what? It wouldn't surprise me only because of all the changes that FB is making to the algorithms and behind the scenes stuff. I'm sure it's slowing it down somewhat. So it makes sense that YouTube is ahead. Okay, so what do we got? We can do the updates later. It's still, I was gonna say it's still early, but we're already 15 minutes already gone by. I don't know how this time compression thing works, but I know that the moment we start. My Boston accent was coming out. The moment we start the Kaffeeklatsch episode, time compresses. I think Sid knows. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's definitely a first. I've never seen YouTube ahead of FB. It really is usually the other way around. Okay, so Paige, we can't discuss your death, but just know that you died. So I think that's all we're at liberty to say right now. You died because that was the deal of you becoming a red shirt. So your character, and let me tell you, it was hard to kill your character. It really was hard because it had transitioned and developed and evolved to one of those characters where it was like, oh, this character can really, has some legs and be around for a little while. But then I remember, no, it's a red shirt. And so it was like one of those Star Trek moments. Put on that hill, go check. Ensign Page, go check. It was over. Yeah. But it was tempting to keep the character alive, for sure. All I can say, all that I'm at liberty to say, is that it was a glorious death. I'm sure those of you in the art that have gotten that, they can back me up on this. It was a glorious death. It was a really cool death. Like, wow. I was impressed after I read it. Man, that was a good way to go. So I hope you enjoy your demise. Heather, ask your questions. And let's see I'll tell you if it's answered. Nice, Jeanette. Oh wow, so you're gonna be actually doing some knitting. Well, I guess is that knitting? Is that considered knitting? Spinning? I don't know what that's called. When you use a wheel, is it still knitting? Or is it just called spinning? But I'm glad you're getting a respite break next week. That's good. You'll need it because your surgery is coming up soon. So is the surgery before or after the rest? Next month, so it's before. Okay, good. All right, so get some rest, rest up, get super healthy, and then go for your surgery, and everything will be well. How's Desmond doing? I hope he's okay, recovering well. He's doing well from his surgery. Spinning. Oh, so you're making thread with spinning. Okay. And then you use that same thread to knit with, right? If I'm getting this right. Do people still use spinning wheels? That's like been around for forever, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you. Yes, I try to make characters that we can relate to. So yes, any surgery is not good. I try to make characters we can relate to, and it's a little. So the process of making a character, especially a red shirt, is kind of like what happened with Bug or Iker. More Iker than Bug, because Bug was never slated to be killed, but Iker was, and Iker. So the danger is that I make the character so interesting that I can't kill them. And that's the problem with with the red shirt competition. That I make the character so interesting. It's like the R. The R was a really, really great character in terms of the scope and what she represented. And it was really hard to kill it. And her death is still kind of up in the air anyway, because of what kind of entity the R is, right? But Paige's character is, yeah, it's gone. Sorry, Paige. And spinning is the starting point, then fleece into yarn, then yarn into. Oh, I see. Okay. And yes, we have Amish. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, I would imagine so because it's a non tech thing. So, yeah, they would use spinning wheels. But I know that the whole process has been around for a long time. I'm glad to hear that this is okay for surgery. That's awesome. Fantastic. Excellent. Yeah, I'm sorry, Paige. You are flatlined. I'm sorry. But it was for a good cause, and you did it in such a great way that you'll be you'll be remembered in the halls of red shirts for all time. Yeah, exactly. I gotta write a Patreon story. I'm gonna write a Patreon story where all the red shirts pull up, like all the red shirts are there hanging out, having a conversation about how they died, and what book they died, or just things like that. That would be great. That's a great idea, Chris. Oh yeah, I think the wheel is a much better tool to spin with. I'm just saying I have no in-depth knowledge regarding spinning or the whole thing. I'm completely uh, ignorant about that. I don't know anything about spinning, creating thread, or any of that. Knitting, crochet, all of that. Nope. So yes, so Deadeye, yeah, exactly. No, the better part would be, Chris, my death was better than your death. What do you mean your death was better than my death? Did you see how I died? Oh, the way you died, that was magnifique. Oh my, it was a fantastic death, but not as good as my, so it's going to be a conversation like that. Oh, drop spindles. Yeah, see, I don't know anything about that, but I can see that happening. All right, so the other part of this book that caught me by surprise, and there were a few surprises in this book, was the length. It was slated to be 55,000 words. Like most of my books are in the 50s. Sometimes they creep into the 60s, but most of them kind of stay in the 50s, 55, 58. This one shot into 73,000 words. Actually, yeah, 73,000 words by the end. By the time I wrote the end, it was 73K. Unexpected, complete. But so here's the thing: I get to 50K, and usually I'm wrapping up the story at 50K. But this one, by the time I got to 50K, it was like there's still quite a bit that needs to happen, and you got to make sure that it gets in this one because the next book, Nemesis, is a total pickup right from where this one ends. There's no break. It's like right away. So I had to condense and get things in this book because I couldn't push it off to the next book. It had to happen in this book to set up what's happening in the next book. So the fact that the story went to 73K completely surprised me. I was like, how, what, when, where? So yeah, so that's, and I think one day I think we're gonna have to do a talk on how books go feral and why, because some books kind of stay within whatever the quota is supposed to be, 50K, 40K, 30K if it's a novella. And some books completely blow past whatever that quota is supposed to be. And I'm interested in the process only because is it something that the author doesn't see, or is it something that happens as the story is developed and as the author's writing? And even though you can be an outliner or a pantser, it still has a tendency to happen that it's just like we're gonna be at 50K, but wait, there's more that needs to happen in the story, and how that happens. Because that's the interesting part. Because there are things that happen in this story that even I didn't anticipate, that I didn't even see coming, that developed as I was writing the story. And I had outlined the story completely, and then it's like there, and it just kind of it was almost an organic thing that came out and said, okay, now we got to add this part, and then we got to add this part, and because you added that part, you got to add this part. It's like, you kidding me? This book is going to end up being like 100K if we keep this up. So it'd be interesting to kind of analyze the process of how a book becomes feral. Hero. Yeah. Yeah, I think I really should look into only the reasoning behind that is one, once you know the process or once you know what occurs, you kind of know what to look for. It's happened a few times with M&S, but there have been other books where it's happened too. I think, yeah, that's my question. Is it the character that demands more? Like in the case of, like, let's say a character like Iker, where I tried to kill him in one of the, it was actually in one of the books, I tried to kill him and he was like, no, you can't kill me because I have more to do. It's interesting how a character develops to such a degree that they almost have, what is it, plot armor. They almost have plot armor where you can't kill them. And it's like, okay, if I can't kill you, I got to do something with you because I can't kill you. And then and that's how all the novellas of Iker form, because he developed plot armor. The key is I want to find out how they developed that plot armor. That's what's interesting to find out. So let me see what Jeanette said. I find it interesting when authors talk about books going feral. So it's a wider, yeah, it really is it's a writer problem. I think it's even more it's a wider writer problem when you have deadlines that you have to meet. But see, deadlines for most authors they're hard deadlines, right? But for indie authors, deadlines can be softer in terms of they can be pushed, or because I impose all the deadlines, right? But I also want to get the books out in a timely fashion. I don't want to push it off months and months and months because I kind of you have readers waiting for the story. So it's a kind of push and pull. But if the book goes feral, like this, then I just screwed up my whole production schedule because it went feral and it just threw everything off. And I had a tight production schedule. It's not tight any longer. It's all over the place. So I have to go over it again. So when books do that, you have to give space for that to happen. And so, like Anthony says, you have to be, I think it's really important in order to kind of discuss what Anthony is saying here, like being a great writer means that sometimes you become your own number one fan. I think it's really important that every author, every writer is their own biggest fan, because if you don't believe in the story that you're writing, or if you don't enjoy the story that you're writing, and I've always said this, if you're not having fun, if you're not enjoying it, if you're not kind of caught up in the story, your readers won't be caught up. They won't enjoy it either. It's this weird thing. It's this kind of alchemy that translates into the writing. If you're not enjoying the writing, it comes across to the readers that you didn't enjoy the writing, and guess what? They won't enjoy the writing either. You know, so it does come across. Let's see. Heather said the largest fan I had was over 200K. Wow. Yeah. Well, if you split it, even if you split it in half, that's two very big books, 100K each. Yeah. What is Chris saying? I asked the mystery writer this question. She, an English teacher, said never goes feral. I outline and stick to it. I can't, even though I haven't. My outlines aren't strict in the sense of in chapter 1 this happens, in chapter 2 that happens. I've never written an outline like that. I use James Scott's Bell 14 outline posts. So it's kind of like a rough template for how to write a story. It doesn't go chapter by chapter by chapter, right? But because I can't have it that structured. But I have a certain structure, but it leaves room for deviation, for tangents. And it's in those tangents that I have to be careful. Let's see. Oh, a couple other releases. Let's see. Oh yeah, FB. I don't know if they're getting rid of group chats, but I know they're doing something with groups, even for sure. Let's see. Pages hitting us with more. Let's see. Jonathan Yanis, Full Throttle Savage. Okay, awesome. September 2nd. Fantastic. All right, so let's put this up so people know what's going on. Some books, I guess, if you're writing, just guys check out, get the link, pick it up, go get it. Jonathan Yanis and R.L. King. I saw the cover for R.L. King. That looks really great. It's a really great cover. That hell of a band. That one was really good looking. Okay. Yeah. So like Chris is saying, for some books, cozy mysteries, it's good to have a certain structure because most mysteries, all mysteries, have a certain way they have to, get the body, then you got suspects, and you got to follow the clues. There's a structure to it. And so if you deviate from that, you're gonna have upset readers who are looking for a mystery and they're finding something else. You're gonna have people not happy with the book. So in certain cases, you have to adhere to a certain structure. But other books, and there's an argument to be made that every book is a mystery. I've heard that a lot. Every book is a mystery of some kind. But other books give you space. Let me just take this off so it doesn't block everything. So, but other books need more breathing room, like Anthony says, I prefer books and characters as opposed to books hibernating for years. We've had that discussion about books hibernating for years, and I think that's kind of like the other side of the coin when you have authors whose books hibernate for years. A lot of that is that the book has gone feral and they haven't found a way to kind of get it under control, and the book just keeps, it's like tribbles. It just keeps multiplying. Things just keep happening. Branches keep happening until the book gets to a certain point where it's out of control. And so when they go back to it to try to get it in some kind of control, some kind of order, it's overwhelming for the author. And so what happens is more time passes and they keep pushing it off and more time passes. And so then you have Song of Fire and Flame situations or Patrick Rothfuss situations where just so much time has happened, so much time has passed that it's like, now how do you do this? How do you approach this now? It's easier to start like what Martin did. He just said, I'm just going to start something else in the same world, but something else, because what he had been working on got so big, so unwieldy that it was very hard for him to go back and kind of tie it up. And then HBO happened, and then they kind of surpassed the books, and so that's another dimension. Let's see. So that's it. Another of my authors made a throwaway comment about fan fiction about our characters, but now she's writing a fan fiction because, I don't mind fan fiction. Fan fiction, a lot of books start as fan fiction, so it's a good thing, Right. So, like what Chris is saying, certain books have. It's the thing is, genres have expectations, and so you have to, as an author, kind of stick to certain expectations within the genre that you're writing. So, let's say you're writing mystery, you have to understand there's got to be something that causes the mystery. If you're going to do a Agatha Christie type thing, there's going to be a body, there's going to be a list of suspects. If it's a closed room mystery, at the end, the detective comes in and starts breaking down why each person is, and then each person is a suspect, and then why they're not, and then eventually, aha, it's the killer. Things like that. Urban fantasy it's a little looser. It lets you kind of play more with pretty much everything in the genre. You can play with, like what I just, you can play with pantheons, you can play with abilities, you can play with setting, even though all my books, most of my books are set in New York City, only because New York City is an inexhaustible character as a setting. New York City is a chameleon, and you could pretty much, like, the setting in this book is set in New York City, but you wouldn't believe it when you read it because of the things that are still in New York City that I'm discovering, which is incredible. Let's see. Dan, the man, awesome. Welcome. Um, let's see. Editors, Fear of Book. Definitely, Anthony. Definitely. Yeah, they're the ones that kind of hunt down all the renegade story ideas and bring them back into the fold, for sure. Holla, Dan. Welcome. Jeanette says, I'm finding it interesting seeing where authors drop necessary clues in mystery stories to avoid needing this as machina. Never want to do it though. Deus ex machina. That's never fun. Stay away from it as much as you can. And so that means sprinkling clues throughout the story. If you're writing mystery, even in urban, you have to kind of. I try to do it early. Let's see. I think I did it in Deadeye too. There were a few. Deadeye has had hints sprinkled throughout the series, and it was just coming to a head in Deadeye. Expectations. Never kill the dog. Yeah, I learned that early on, Jeanette. I tried it, but never killed the dog. Let's see. Sometimes fan fiction becomes feral, and you end up with sparkling vampires. Yeah, Twilight is Twilight is definitely an example of that. And then you have wasn't 50 Shades of Grey fan fiction of Twilight or something like that? I think it was. I didn't follow it too much, but I knew it became a sensation, a phenomenon. In romance, I expect an eventual happy. Yeah, romance is HEAs, right? It's supposed to. So yeah, that's the thing about experimentation, Jeanette. There are authors who will begin one plot line and then cross into another plot line in an effort to combine plot lines or combine plot devices. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and when it doesn't, it really doesn't work. You have to really be careful as an author. If you're going to use different plot devices, to use them in a way that's not heavy-handed, and to use them in a way that serves the story. Sometimes it's effective, but many times it comes across as clunky, and then you get the result again. People stop reading the book because it's clunky or because it's not really working to serve the story. Yeah, if it goes feral, then it becomes 50 Shades of Malcontent. But that 50 Shades of Grey took off. So it touched the nerve somewhere where it connected with a large group of people. Oh, John 12 Hawks. I read 2 of his books. I don't know if did he continue writing John 12 Hawks? Because he was a his stories were really interesting, but they were really strange. Like they were really trippy, his stories. But he was a very good writer. But I don't know. I read 2 of his books and he stopped writing. And after that, it was like, I wonder what he was up to. So I should check and see what he's up to. But his books were, whoa. They were like, someone described them as an LSD trip. His books, and wondered if he was writing it in the midst of an LSD trip. So I can totally see why you would stop, because his books were getting really kind of surreal. Yeah. Yeah, see, this is what happens. The whole sparkly vampire thing. Okay, I didn't see all the Twilight movies. I saw one. I saw the first one. I think I saw part of it. And what messed me up, or what threw me off, was Edward is his name. I think the main vampire was in the sun and he's sparkling, and I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm good. Because sparkly vampires. Then the sun doesn't bother them, but they sparkle in the sun. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm good. Right, and Laurel K. Hamilton, she deviated from what she was doing, and Laurel K. Hamilton is the Mercy stories, and she deviated from what she was doing and introduced the whole kinky thing, and then that turned off a lot of readers that said this is not necessary. And what happens is that when you're in a genre and you introduce elements to the genre that are not normal to the genre, that's when readers start getting turned off because they start saying, okay, this is not for me, or it's not addressed to me as a reader, so I'm not going to read this any longer because it's not something I want to read. And that's what happens is you have a genre, there are expectations of that genre. Oh, it's the Anita Blake series, right? So, and then you bring things into that genre that aren't the norm. Doesn't mean it can't exist. You could do things that have things that in the case of Laura K. Hamilton, I think she went. And haven't read her story, so I can't speak with authority. But from what I understand, this is all secondhand. She went way overboard into that stuff, and brought it into the book. And then when people started saying something about it, she was like, "Deal with it, tough." And so that was the issue. Yeah. So Magic, yeah. See, I don't. Again, I haven't followed it, but I know that there was a definite disconnect because she didn't start the series that way. It ended up being that at some point in the series, she introduced all of this stuff, and then that started becoming part of the series, and that started turning readers off. I'm sure there's still a lot of readers that stayed with her, but she also lost a large chunk of her readership because of that. So the question is, and this is a question that plagues writers all the time: do you write for your readers, or do you write the story you want to write? And it's a tough question for readers, authors to kind of answer, because if you're writing, you want readers, you need readers to read what you're writing. By the same token, are the readers dictating what you're writing? How far do you go in your writing on the influence of the readers? That are they influencing what you're writing now, as opposed to you writing the story that you want to write? It's complicated, isn't it? Let's see. Dresden Files has sadly gotten too hard passing. Refrigerating women is another. Wow. Okay, I have to look into Dresden Files refrigerating women. I don't remember that, but I'm sure it's in there somewhere. Oh, what do I read when I can? When I'm writing, I made this mistake recently. I was reading. What was the name of that? Rebecca Yarros? Oh my god. Okay, I think I was writing Major Monsters, and I was reading Rebecca Yarros while I was writing Major Monsters, and my brain seized. It's not something I should do. So I try not to read anything close to what I'm writing when I'm writing. So when I'm writing, I'll read nonfiction. So I'll read stuff on the craft of writing. When I have a chance to actually read stuff like fiction, I'll read related. So right now I'm still reading Genevieve Cogman, which is the Librarian series. A lot of fun. And I'm also reading Joe Abercrombie, The Devils, like hard epic fantasy. But I like Joe Abercrombie's writing, so it's really good. So yeah, and so that's what I'll read for when I can read. Usually I'm in the middle of writing, so I really can't read that much. What does Anthony say? If you look at the most popular books in KU and Kindle in general, it makes me think that we're the only safe. It's possible, Anthony. So what's page 6? The worst part was the sex, as much as the sex became the story. One of her novellas was just a yeah. See, that's what I heard. That it didn't spice up the story. It became the story, and readers got turned off. That's what really started changing things. Having Harry serving on his apprentice also, yeah, that got a lot of people upset too. Jeanette. You're welcome, Thor. Dan says, I don't know if there's anyone here that lives out in LA, but on the 25th of this month, of the new Beverly Cinema owned by Quentin Tarantino. Wow. They're doing a special 40th anniversary screening of American Ninja. Wow. If anyone does go, you'll have to for sure. Yeah, I figured what it was. But here's the thing about that too. And this is what ties into um leaving a large gap between books, between stories, right? Where Butcher had a big gap in his last two books. There was a big gap. It was 5 years, and I'm not, I've done it myself, but I try to stay very true to the story, and I think his took a turn for the last two books. I don't know for sure because I don't speak to gym like that. But I think that's what happened in the story. And then things like Serving on His Apprentice became part of what happened. And I think there's another book he's has. I think he has another Dresden book coming out next year. So his books come out like 1-2 years. I could never do something like that. Take 2 years to write a book for a current series. I have done it, but I try not to do that. Oh yeah, Enan's telling us about the group chats going away. So just be aware that FB might start changing stuff and group chats might be going away. I don't think it impacts us too much because we don't really use group chats, and our room is private. So also the MoB is a private room, so I don't think that impacts us too much. And this, what we're doing right now, can constitute a group chat, but it's on a third party, which is StreamYard. So I don't think it affects it either. But we'll see because FB, YouTube, they kind of just change and change the things and without letting us know, and then we have to kind of find out as it happens. Yeah, from what I understand, I've actually done it. So Jeanette is making a good point. Romance and romance adjacent, the plot to sex pages are ratio matters. Yes, I understood this. I've studied it, which is why I've been doing romantasy studies and realize that there's a ratio that matters before it goes into different areas, for sure. Yes. Yeah, Chris, that's exactly what it was. It's about the ad revenue and changing. When they change algorithms like that, especially in FB, they need to have eyes on their ads, and when they do that, they have to have the ad. They have to have the ads, and if they can't have the ads, then they lose money, and that's the problem. So they don't want to lose money, so they're not going to make it so radical that people say, "Okay, well, I'm not doing this anymore," and then they lose a lot of revenue. We're not talking about small amount. They lose millions of dollars. So that's what they make on ad revenue. They're going to make sure that it stays in the ad revenue. Anthony asks, are you ever tempted to intentionally write a book that is pure pandering to the more popular trends and would continue Pandaverse if it brought in gazillions amount of moolah, but you hate everything about it? I couldn't write a book that I hate everything about. Okay, so there's this thing called writing to market, right? Writing to market, the premise behind writing to market is that you write whatever's popular in that moment, which is hard to do because there's always a lag between what you write and it being popular, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, because there's always a lag between what you write and publishing. But writing to market is based on that premise that you write something that is really popular, it's trending, it's really big, and will make a lot of money, but you don't necessarily enjoy writing it. The problem with that is that those stories, in my opinion, are usually very forgettable because the author is just writing to just make the money. He's not writing. He's not. And again, this is my opinion. It's not in stone, but the author's not putting the thought or the sentiment needed to make the story memorable, to make the story impactful, and so it becomes, just we're just gonna write the story, make some money, and then move on. That's the problem because readers eventually pick up on it. They might catch fire in the beginning, but then after a while, it's like, we don't want to. I don't want to read that because I don't like the characters. Or I don't, the characters aren't really. I'm not invested in the characters. That becomes the problem. To really write a story that readers want to read, they have to be invested in the characters, and so, yeah, it's like that. Dan Brown writes the Da Vinci Code, and after the Da Vinci Code, there were a whole bunch of imitation Da Vinci Code stories out there because they were trying to cash in on the Dan Brown, on the Da Vinci Code trend, and so that's what occurs. Same thing with Twilight. Once Twilight dropped, there were a whole bunch of Twilight-like things, like the whole vampire craze exploded even more. Vampires very rarely. I think it's like an ebb and flow with the vampires and certain kind of creatures. They come and they go, and so they have their moments when they're really big. Like I remember when Anne Rice, an interview with the vampire, came out, that exploded. That was huge. Then it died down a little bit. Then it comes back. Then it dies down. Then it comes back. So it seems like that. Both in film and in books, these trends come and go. let's see, trend breaking was like the Matrix was trend breaking. People thought it was trend breaking, but it's really just alternate realities. And so that, you have William Gibson writing Neuromancer and things like that, which is like the precursor to the Matrix, or Johnny Mnemonic, which is another thing that was like that. So it happens, but it happens in waves, and it usually happens when one story makes it huge, and then you have a whole bunch of stories behind it. Yeah, Clive Cussler, any book starting Dirk Pitt, that's basically the same thing. Yeah, and it's different from the if you ever want to study this, because it's really interesting. It's different from the Pulp Fiction era, because the Pulp Fiction era was basically that. It was basically there's a formula, you stick to it, you put the book out, and you made. Let's see if I remember the amount. I think you made 4 cents per word back then. So they would crank out these books, make their money, and just go to the next book, and then go to the next book, and it was formulaic. It was the same thing, but it was basically they were doing this because they needed to survive. It was during the Depression era, and the Pulp Fiction books just kind of cranked out books one right after the other really quickly. And they were able to do it really fast. These Pulp Fiction writers, they were really good at their craft, and they were really quick, but they had a formula that they followed. You know. Let's see. Churning out books for cash versus writing for a story. All right. And it goes out in 2 extremes, right? If you want to be so literary that you're just going to write your experimental story, you can. It's not going to have many readers. That's the thing. So you kind of have to find the mean, the happy balance between the two, where I want to write a book that sells. I also want to write a story that's well read, that people read. Then I want to have both. Black Dagger Brotherhood by J.R. Ward. Oh, there you go. Yeah, because when it goes to TV, it recreates. It generates more interest for sure. The M&S Universe definitely grabbed my. I'm glad we grabbed your attention. Let's see. Who remembers Virtuosity with Denzel? Oh my God, that's so long ago. Yes, and I do remember it. So we can't look forward to Sparkly Monty and Breaking Dawn Strong, featuring Snoopy Peaches and 50 Shades. No, sorry, not even as a parody. That whole no, just blanket no, that won't work at all. But that's what happens. Some authors. I'll put it to like this. I've read after, and this is not. I'm not bragging or anything, but I've read many hellhounds, and I did not originate the hellhound. I might have originated the hellhound called Peaches, but the concept of a hellhound did not start with me. Okay, but after Peaches got kind of popular, semi-popular, I read many authors who've written Peaches like dogs, hellhounds, and it's fun. You read it and I know where this came from, and it's fun, and it's flattering in a way, but this is what happens. You see a lot of authors have suddenly included hellhounds. Not just it's interesting because it's not another kind of character. It has to be a hellhound. I've seen a lot of hellhounds out there after Peaches started getting some prominence. This is what happens. Imitation is the greatest source of flattery, I guess. J.D. Robbins in Death Series has put some of that formula. Feel every book will have at least 3 times. With the pieces having amazing intern. Yeah. J.D. Robb, isn't J.D. Robb Nora Roberts? I thought J.D. Robb was Nora Roberts. I'm not. So you can't really, she does what she has earned her right to do whatever she wants. But she has a huge following, both as Nora and as J.D. Robb. But I think she writes about 200 books. I don't know if it's 200 books a year or she's written 200 books total. So she writes a lot. So I think a lot of this become formulaic with her because J.D. Robb is a penman, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Chris, I've noticed it. And it's happened with a few authors that I know personally. Like I've seen these sidekick hellhounds all of a sudden come into the one I noticed that was like a blatant Peaches copy, and I read it and I'm gonna say, people do what they're gonna do. I'm not gonna I don't corner the market on hellhounds, but one was like really like Peaches. I was like, wow, this could be Peaches. So I saw that. Then I saw a few others where it was Peaches Light, but all of a sudden, all these characters needed a hellhound or a hound sidekick, which was fun to see because I get to impact other authors, which is fun. So that's always good. Yeah, let's see. Oh, she writes 3 or 4 a year. Yeah, I know she has a lot of books. So yeah, suddenly every main character had a supernatural animal sidekick. Right. It was amazing to see it happen because it kind of happened over a period of time, but all of a sudden it started coming out. Mary Beth, thank you so much for being here and enjoy your weekend. Dan says, I discovered Words of the Way from the Amazon search of martial arts magic. Yeah. And, it was an interesting mix to do that with Warriors of the Way. I don't know if many others have done that. But it's good to do some things that are kind of unique, you know? Anthony says, great office, great mediocre writers, plagiarize, hacky writers, steal from mediocre. Oh, okay. So I didn't realize there was a whole hierarchy. Now I know. Thanks, Anthony. Yeah, see, Chris did a cat sidekick, and there are some books that have cat sidekicks, but not many. You'd be surprised how few of the cats there are. It's interesting. Yes, Jeanette, she's an amazing author, and that whole expectations goes back to genre expectations. Like if you're gonna write a specific genre, you have to know, I guess, the tropes that are part of that genre, right? And so if you don't know these tropes, or you don't meet, excuse me, you don't meet these tropes, you rankle your readers. They kind of get upset. It's like that. It's just the way it is. And so, it's like Agatha Christie used to say, there's got to be a dead body somewhere. I start with a dead body. That's the way it is. All right, let me get to the questions because time is just flying. All right. Okay, let's see. Audrey's questions. Excuse me. Orlando, what was the most, and I want to say thank you for all the questions because you guys are amazing. So we have a disclaimer there. What was the most difficult lesson you learned after moving out of your parents' house? Bills. They don't care. They come. Actually, the question is deeper than that. The question is, the answer is deeper than that. No one's going to save you. You've got to save yourself. You've got to do the things you've got to do. That's probably the lesson, one of the hardest lessons you learn when you move out of your parents' house. Is that you're on your own in a sense now. You've got to deal with things. You can't. Your mom, your dad isn't going to come save you from everything. You've got to face it. That's a hard one. That's a hard lesson to learn. It's a hard one. Dolly, have you ever judged a book by its cover and been wrong?
I read mostly nonfiction books, so the cover and the back cover is pretty clear.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. Orlando, are there specific people who have shaped your storytelling style? Wow, that list is so long, Audrey. It's a lot. I'll put it like this: every author I read growing up has some sort of influence in my writing style, my storytelling style, one way or another. It would be impossible to list everyone because every author that I read as a child, as growing up, as a young reader, one way or another impacted what ended up being my storytelling style. So it would be hard for me to kind of disentangle all the different influences. I think this is why it's important to read as an author because you don't know which author you're reading is going to influence your writing. But I would say every author I read, and I read a lot. I was a voracious child reader. So yeah, all of it. Okay, let's say Chris says, did your son learn to drive? Celebrate. He's really good at it. He drives really well. I keep telling him that when he gets into the car, you should just tell the instructor, okay, today we're going fast, fast and furious. And he tells me he can't do that. He doesn't want to do that. So, but yeah, he learned, and he has his test coming up this week. So hopefully he'll get past that. I have a feeling that he will because he's very good at these things. So definitely. Let's see. Great questions. Thank you so much for the questions, guys. The questions always make the episode so much better, so interesting. And these are really good questions. I think the one about the storytelling style is one that every author reflects on at some point in their writing career. They really think about it. If they're introspective enough to realize that you don't just develop your style on your own, it always has some sort of outside influence. And whether or not you recognize it is one thing, but Every author has some kind of influence, some external influence in their writing. That's just the way it is. Let's see. Dungeon Crawler Car. I've heard of these books. I haven't read them, but I've heard of them. But yeah. Oh, Dan, yeah. The Blood Ninja, Nick Lake, John Donahue. I've met John Donahue. We've spoken to him. The Sensei series of books, really good books. I like those. I like those books. That's what Anthony's gonna say. I will now base an entire series around a pet rock from the shores of Styx who solves crimes. It does online interviews for Ubers, right? That's gonna do really well. Go for it, Anthony. Let's see, Jeanette. Yeah, bills, laundry, and you have to prepare your food every day. Things hard. I won't say it's a difficult lesson, but it's a profound lesson. And you have to realize that these things were done for you growing up, and now you have to do it for yourself. It's tough. Is there a release date for Deadeye? The art closes on the 20th. I would say either the 20th, if there's nothing major that has to be kind of revised, fixed, or the 21st of this month. So next week, either Wednesday or Thursday is when it's going out. So that says I read so well that I couldn't identify. Yeah, it's the same thing with me. I've read so well. I've read a little bit of everything across so many different kinds of stories and books and authors that to say this particular author influenced the storytelling style, it's just so many. It's such a large amount of authors. Oh, you have the Deadeye bingo card set up. You want to share some of them with us now? I won't tell you if it's yes or no, but I'm interested to see what the bingo cards are. I started being cognizant of some of the things, aside from the fact that everything is a runic something. Holly told me once, it's a runic. Yeah, if you don't know what it is, just make it runic, and there you go, it's set up. So, but let's see. There are a few things I've started picking up on 28 books in that occurs, like waving words away. That happens a lot. The waving of the words. Yeah. There are a few other things that occur in almost every book. At one point, every book something coruscated, because I must really like that word, so I would use that all the time. Things would coruscate constantly. There are a few that I noticed were trends in the stories that would repeat often. And even in Deadeye, I noticed a few things, but it was a little different in Deadeye. Yeah. Yeah, the lit RPG. Okay, so for lit RPG, that I don't think it's ever really gone away. I think it's been a little niche, but lit RPG has a really large readership. And I remember the create your own adventure stories when I was young, which were really fun. I used to love those books when you could kind of follow one thread and do one thing, and then you go back and follow something else. And so that was really fun. So lit RPG is just more of advanced. It's like reading Dungeons and Dragons, basically. And so that's always had a following. And the good thing about lit RPG for their readers is that those books are usually immense. We're talking 120, 200K books because they need that much content to flesh out the adventure, which is fun. Let's see. I know that you know that I know that. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Jeanette has the cards contain squares like Tristan tugs on his sleeves for sure. You know, he can't. It's like I think with Monty, that's a nervous tick that he pulls on his sleeves as he's doing something. One thing he hasn't done in a while is like he used to like rub his chin, tap his chin. That used to happen all the time. Let's see. There's a fun one from Ben Wolf. Is this a lit RPG? Check it out on Patreon right now. So releases away. Yeah. Rickshaw Ride. Okay, sounds fun. Is that a lit RPG page? I know a few authors that are working on again, and this is part of what we were discussing earlier. Lit RPG has always been I won't say popular, but it has always had a following. But it's gaining popularity, and so a lot of authors are stepping into that genre. Some will do it just to kind of cash in on, oh, lit RPG is hot right now, but some will do it because they really love lit RPG. And you'll see the difference. You'll see what happens. Some will stick and some will not. Some will develop great followings and some will just be one-offs. So it's like that. Let's see. Pastrami is refused. Pastrami refused. Pastrami's never refused. Are you kidding? Will the boys ever grow a beard? I don't think so. No. No. Because if it's Monty, he barely takes care of the hair on his head. Forget maintaining a beard. I don't know if Simon would ever want to grow a beard. Maybe, maybe. You never know. I won't say never. Um, Cosmo, yeah, RPG game trilogy. Okay. Good RPGs are my preferred genre, but some authors, yeah. Um, like I was saying, I know a few authors who are kind of dipping their toes into the RPG world. I know some who have been in there for a long time and been going back many years, like even when it was really, really getting recognized. It's an interesting genre. I've never been attracted to writing the RPG, not even reading it, because for me it's like playing D&D, and it's a weird. It sets up a weird thing in my head as I'm reading it. It's like this should be like a D&D game, and so it's hard for me to read it. But I respect the fact that people love reading it because it is like your own, following your own adventure, and there are authors who do really well with lit RPG, writing lit RPG. It's the little quirks that make the stories, but also make creating the storyline big book art. Yeah, it's another expectation. So like in terms of M&S, you can't read an M&S story without some mention of coffee, definitely. It's just part of the story. It's an expected thing. If I ever wrote an M&S story where Simon didn't gush about his coffee at some point, something would be wrong. Because I have readers who like, first of all, here's the thing. Death wish is a real thing, as I'm drinking some right now. I've had readers who, because I've mentioned Death Wish so often in the series, have gone out, gotten Death Wish, tried it, and have fallen in love with Death Wish. So there's things like that, right? And I try to always make whatever I mention in a story based on something real. Like Ezra is basically Katz's Deli, and it's a real place, and the pastrami sandwiches there are phenomenal, and so things like that. So there are expectations to the things that you do when you introduce certain things into stories, for sure. And those little quirks also add a certain realism to the story, to the character. You start realizing, oh, it's like Monty only drinks Earl Grey, and things like that, or Simon only drinks Death. Yeah, I can never see like Chris. I can never get into the RPG. I've tried it. I've tried reading it, and for me, I said I played up D&D when I was younger. I don't need to read it now. So, but that's basically what it is. It is written a written D&D adventure. Basically. So that's my impression of it. And this is Monty needs a few elf knots in his hair. Yeah, I don't know about that. um, yeah, lit RPG. The last time I read a lit RPG, we're talking years ago, but the last time I read a lit RPG, it was basically reading Dungeons and Dragons. And as a DM, an ex-DM, it was like, nah, I can just create one. I can create a dungeon. I don't need to read one. But there are people who love the RPG. It's really big, you know. Exactly. If you ever read a Monty and Strong story, and Simon's in the story, and he's not reading, and he's not drinking coffee, you need to check up to see what's wrong with him. Because clearly there's something wrong in the story. Because there's not a story that goes in M&S where Simon isn't drinking coffee of some sort. Like he's not drinking Deathwish or Java Ambrosia or something. And Java Ambrosia is an invented word, yes. Pace is a constant interruption to level up, get loot. It's just right. For me, that's kind of like it pulls you out of the story but that's the essence of lit RPG is that having that adventure, going on that adventure. All right, let me give you the quick updates because there's a secret in here that I want to share with you guys first. So don't forget, if you haven't by now, I mean, it's been a while. If you haven't reviewed Pain Eaters, please do. Okay. Deadeye will be coming out next week. If the notes are done and all the shredders are done, I'll try and see if I can get out even earlier. But usually I wait till all the shredders have done their thing between the notes and the questions. There's going to be a Patreon story. And this is only for patrons, so guys, join up. It's called The Morgan's Man. I think this is the first I've mentioned it here. And so I don't want to say too much because it's kind of a secret thing, but I do want to tell you to join the Patreon because the Morgan's Man is going to be really interesting. You can infer what, just from the title, the Morgan's Man. If you've been paying attention in the M&S stories, you know exactly who I'm referring to and exactly what's going on. And yeah, you'll know what I mean just by me giving you the title of the story. So you want to join Patreon because the first one's coming out this month, right? The first one's coming out this month. The first story on the Morgan's Man. So you definitely want to check it out. Dan says, a marvelous but brief hang. Thank you, Mom, Orlando, and Dolly, for the usual level of awesomeness, and stay frosty because it's alien Earth. Oh, awesome. Yeah, enjoy. Dan, thank you so much for being here. Holla holla as usual. Unleash the awesomeness as always. And don't forget that Silk is the man. Okay? You're about the third. Yeah, so you have time. I mean, listen, the deadline is the 20th, so I'm not rushing anyone. You guys have until Wednesday. I made sure to have enough time because it was a 73K book, which is not the norm for me. So I wanted to make sure everyone had enough time. And I also recognize that life happens. And so, the shred has to fit within all the stuff that's happening in your life. You guys are amazing for taking on the art and doing it. So I appreciate it entirely. Would the caffeine withdrawal from quitting Deathwish coffee be enough to overcome Kali's curse? No, it wouldn't. Kali's curse is much stronger than any kind of caffeine withdrawal. So, but it would be powerful. Deathwish, if you don't, so I'm so kind of used to it now that doesn't really affect me. But in the beginning, if I didn't drink it, I would definitely feel the withdrawal symptoms. But now doesn't really even bother me that much, the caffeine withdrawal. Because I drink it, then I'll maybe not drink it for a day or two and drink it again. So it's fine. But you have to kind of acclimate to that, But Simon would never stop drinking that first. You kidding? All the things that he has to deal with, and the fact that he's a bondmate to a hellhound, just for that alone, he needs to keep drinking Death Wish. That's enough to keep him drinking. Not to mention everything else that's going on. So once you guys, 73K is a lot. And there might be a little more only because, after the art gets through and stuff, I'll have to add some things. But once you guys get through with the book, we'll have a discussion. I want to discuss with you guys, see how you feel. Maybe in the next Kaffeeklatsch, which is on the 29th of this month. The endings of the books. I've heard a lot about the suddenness of the endings. So I want to discuss with you guys what that means and if it needs to be kind of addressed, Is he supposed to be blasted to the ceiling? Yeah, that's kind of the thing. So, we'll get into it. Definitely. I'm open to hearing what you guys may think. Whether or not it would change the story is the whole thing. I'm definitely open to hearing it, for sure. Okay, I wanted to end right on time today. And we're right on the time. Where's my closer? Hello, closer. Closers. Here's my closer. All right, closer.
Thank you for watching MoB Kaffeeklatsch episode 150 and enjoy your weekend.
The next one is on the 29th. The next episode.
Okay.
Tell them. Yeah.
The next episode is on the 29th.
I like how you say that. The next one. Okay, sure. You'll be here for that one too. Awesome. Thank you, closer. All right. Yeah, the end of two the saddest words. All right. Let's put the música. Thank you guys for being here. You guys are awesome. I want you guys to have a fantastic, awesome, incredible weekend. Remember my three B's, right? Be kind, be unstoppable, be uncommon. Have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're in the art, enjoy Deadeye. There's a lot to enjoy. 73,000 words. I think only the Spiritual Warrior, the first one, was as long as that. Everything else has been kind of close. Have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you in the mob. And stay hydrated. Stay cool in this heat if you're in a place where it's really hot. Okay? Oh yeah, Paige, please, when you get to your death, please let me know. Just text me. Let me know what your thoughts are of your death. Because you're only on chapter 5, you got a lot to go to get to your death. So Janae, go get some sleep, get some rest, because I know you're close to 3 a.m. over there. And yeah, I'm gonna take off my ugly face and put on a really, really cute face. So